Hi, I'm Sleepless Skies, and in this video I'm going to be sharing with you something that has made a massive difference to me as a producer, really helped speed up my producer workflow. That is, starting with a project template. This video I'm going to show you exactly how I use my project template in a real project. I'm going to take you through exactly what goes into it, and at the end of this video I'm going to share with you a link where you can quickly get my project template as a download. So let's get into the door, see it in action. Okay, so here we are on the door and you can see a project in front of you. This is a remix that I did recently for the wonderful Anadem, a track of his called Underdog. It's now released on the Coral Canvas EP on Polyamber if you don't listen to it. So let's have a little listen as I'm doing a guided tour. You might as well have some music on. So we've got this track here. This is the layout of the track. I've got actually two versions, an extended mix and a remix. Down here, you can see all of the different elements that I put into my project template, all the different parts that go into it. This is all of the different bits here. So I will take you through what they all do now. Okay, stop that briefly. So, template's made up like this. Let's start from this mix bus bit. I'll talk you through these little last bits at the end, but right for now we'll start with the mix bus. So I group everything together into one mix bus and then work into that. The reason for that is you can apply some little things like filters and washouts to the whole mix if you want, and you can keep that master channel free for any mastering you want to do or whatever else needs in monitoring, things like that. So it's just a way of tidying things up. So you got this mix bus. It also means you can apply like return channels and stuff to the whole mix if you so wished. I never really do that, but you could. So then the structure of my template basically goes something like this. It's all of the individual parts, leads, ARPs, anything that I want to process individually goes first. Then I have a group called harmonics. And harmonics is really all the stuff that's going to sit in the background of the track. So these things that I want to process individually, usually they are front-facing elements. So the elements that are quite forward in the mix, the things I really want to hear, like the leads, like these kind of little stutter things. I'll show you what they all are in a second. But effectively, they all sit at the front. And then you've got this harmonics channel here, and that basically puts all the things towards the back. And I'll show in a second why I do that, why I've got these kind of forward elements and back elements. So these are things like pads, samples. I've got, what have I got in here? Pads. It's got some samples, like texture samples, like this sort of thing here. I've got pads. And I've got a couple of little effects elements. Well, there's not actually a lot in this particular harmonics. Very faintly, there's a kind of very gentle effect there. So there's not a lot in that harmonics element. Usually I have a bit more than that, but I think in this mix I was just trying to kind of bring a few more elements to the front. And then after the harmonics section, I will have my drums. Drums all go in one big long group like this. And then that's split into what I call core drums and transitions. So transitions are, as you'd expect, all the stuff that helps one section transition to another. So there's white noise, bits of percussion hits, little lovely crashes, and also this kind of like little snare rolls and things like that. So that all sits in transitions. Then core drums. I play an element that's got drums in it. Core drums. These are the drums that make the track work, make the moves. You've got like a little rim shot. You've got some loops. Snare, shakers, all the stuff you'd expect to see in there. So that all sits there. What doesn't, you'll hear if I play it, what doesn't sit in here is the kick. Now, you could be a kind of person that likes to process their kick with their drums. You can be the sort of person like me that likes to process it with a low end. Really, I don't think it matters. Maybe it's a bit genre specific, but whichever you choose, this is the way I do it. So, but you could easily move the kick drum into the drums element. The reason I don't, by the way, is because I like to put quite a lot of processing on my drums. If I just play this again, you've got this whole like processing rack, which if I turn it off and then turn it back on again, you can hear it's like bringing a bit of brightness and depth to the drums. So, and also like a clipper and things like that, which I use this one here, standard clip. So like, you know, I've got all this stuff on here. I don't really want to put my kick drum through all that because I like to keep my kick quite clean. So if you're making music with your kick drum, you want to have it really over processed and punchy and like raw and gritty, then you might want to stick it through all that processing. Personally, I don't. I like to keep it nice and clean. So I put it into my low end, and that way you can glue the low end together. So we've got kick, bass, and then I process the basses. Again, I've got like a few different basses going on here, like a sub and a mid bass and a little kind of fifths line, and then a bit of like wide ambient, kind of very, very subtle wide bass. It's just to give this sense of width to the whole bass line. So that's it. Top to bottom, high elements, drums and all that stuff, low end at the bottom. Then let's just show you what goes in here. I use some version of this in every track I make, right? Now, I've added some to this. This is a longer set of return channels than often I use, but you'll get the basics. The basics are, I always have a drum room reverb, a mid room reverb, and then something big, like that gives me a lot of space, big spatial elements. I sometimes have a snare reverb in if I want to have a special reverb on the snare. In this case, I want to have a bit more than I was getting in everything else, so I have a special one for the snare. Maybe a couple of different delays. Something here called throw. Throw is basically where it's just like a massive, it's a big supermassive basically. So I can use that as a transitional element if I want to. This is something called pad effects, where I'm putting just a ton of effects. This is a bit of crystallizer, some reverb, all this stuff, panning. It's all got a load of effects on one channel, which is effectively then I can throw pads through that, and it kind of just gives it a bit more space and ambience in the background. Some widening effects, just a supermassive on here as well. If I ever want to just use, I think I've used this is dirty snare. So I must have specifically wanted that preset somewhere to do some automation with. And then a parallel compressor, which allows me to put some things, like you could put like the low end in, for example, if you wanted to beef it up a bit. So if I take that here, I haven't actually used that here, but so parallel compression. So it's just really glue it together if you want to do that. But there's lots of things you can do with parallel compression. It can often be a nice one to automate that in the louder elements of your track to like bring vocals up or a lead up. So now you can imagine putting this together. If you were to sit down and just build this whole track from scratch, all of these take ages. There's lots of tweaking, like every single one of these, you would have to bring all these in separately. You'd start tweaking all of this stuff. It just takes forever. So I start with all of this in, and I just build into the template and I produce into the template. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to now jump into a blank version of this and show you around the blank version, and then give you a link where you can download the blank version of my template. Okay, here we are. We are in a nice, clean, blank template. We have the mix bus channel as promised. We have vocals, leads. You can put any other instruments alongside that you want to bring to the front of your mix. We then have a harmonics group. Like I said, it's got processing on it. I have taken off all of the stuff that's third-party plugins. This is only using Ableton stock. so you can jump straight in. If you've got Ableton 12, you can get going and use it straight away. We've got some channels already set up for things like pads and pianos and atmospheres and so on, but you can throw whatever instruments and samples you want in there. And then you've got drums, like I said, your core drums, again, some channels ready to go, transitions, channels ready to go, and your low end all nicely set up. And I've even done things like this. If I get a kick going here, and then I'll just highlight all these together so I can play them as one. So this has got, they've actually got some instruments in. I've just added some instruments. These are some presets of my own that I've created, wavetable ones, and some nice racks and things like that that really help you kind of make the best out of them. And I've actually put things like sidechain compression already on all this. This is all ready to go. If you like that bass preset, you can just get started, or you could whip the bass preset out, but the compression and limiting and everything's already done for you. So, and you'll notice that actually the levels are pretty good too. Like that's 15, so you might bump that up a tiny bit. You can actually go in here. This has got a limiter on it. So if you wanted to like maybe that 14, you could. But like those levels are pretty good. So things like that are going to really speed you up by using this template. There's a bit of compression already on it for the low end, so it's all kind of nice and, you know, ready to go really. And then up here, I've done a few things too. Like for example, the drums have processing on already. There's a nice couple of a saturator and a bit of this drum kit enhancer on raw. You can blend them into taste here. If you see what I'm doing with this little volume control, that's just for blending for your parallel processing. That's all set up ready to go in your drums. Harmonics have got the same thing. There's some saturation on an effect rack on there, saturation on the harmonics. So this is really like plug and play, off you go. And even this lead, I've added here this kind of thing called reverb delay rack, which is really cool. So if I take any, I just take an instrument here, like this one's good, synth marimba. But if you listen to this in here, I mean, it's a pretty basic sound, right? So suddenly we'll drop it in here, and because of this reverb delay rack, just immediately sounds brilliant. It's and this is what I've done here is actually, it's not just that you've got reverb and delay on it, which obviously does make everything sound better, but also it's got things like it's compressed to its sidechain to itself, so you won't find that the delay and the reverb get in the way of the most prominent sound. So it only kicks in once the tail of the sound goes. So lots of little things, bit of compression on there for you already. It's already good to go. You've got your return channels good to go, a drum room, a mid verb, and a huge verb, some delays, a bit of a widening effect, like if you wanted to widen that lead a bit. You can hear it already straight away, the echoes are brought more wide, you know, all that stuff's ready to go, okay? And then some parallel compression, if you want to use that, you can get a bit more beef in just a bit more fattening up of a sound. So that's it. Another little cool hack I've got in here for you as well is you'll see this MIDI track at the top called Whole Track. This is actually something I use, really speeds things up. If you basically take this MIDI file, this little MIDI clip, and you stretch it to be the length of your track. So let's say my track, when I've written my track on this template, it ends up being this long. I then create this MIDI file, stretch it to the length of the track I want, and then whenever I want to, I can just right click loop and it'll loop to the full length of the track. So I'm not fiddling around with this thing up here trying to work out where the end of my track was again. Like let's say I've been working on this section of the track and I'm like, that's really cool, I've been working away on this, and now I'm like, right, now I want to bounce it, or I want to start from the start, you know, loop the whole thing again. Bang, it's looped in one click. Really, really handy. So yeah, there's lots there. This template, honestly, will, you know, you can add to it, you can change it, you could add more return channels, you know, you'll build it out and make it your own over time, but it's an amazing starting point. It's even nicely color coded. these colors are scientifically proven to make you a better producer. Just kidding. So yeah, and you're good to go. And I even put some little dividers and stuff in there, so you know that stuff is sped up for you too. And then there's a little bit of a basic mastering chain on the master too, so you can just get going straight into a compressor limiter. So that's it. Start with a project template. It will speed you up immensely. I can't wait to see and hear about the music that you create with this template. I will give you there's a link in the description and in the first comment of this video that will tell you exactly where to get it. So jump down below, have a look in the description, have a look in the comments. You'll find a link, and happy producing, and I will see you next time. Bye.